A few weeks ago, I tweeted that there will be at least one open source image editor that's as good as Nano-banana. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the moment is finally here. So Alibaba just released Qwen Image Edit 2509, which stands for September of 2025. This is their best and latest image editor, and from my initial tests, it's as good or even better than Nano-banana. So in this video, I'm going to go over all the cool things it can do, plus its limitations, and of course I'm going to show you where and how to use it, and step by step how to download it on your computer so you can run it for free offline for unlimited times. Let's jump right in. Thanks to HubSpot for sponsoring this video. So I'll link to this official announcement page in the description below. This is essentially an image editor just like Nano-banana, where you can upload any reference photos and prompt it to do anything with those photos. So for example, you can upload these two photos and generate some wedding photos of them. If you're a wedding photographer, I would be slightly worried if I were you. Now, this new Qwen Image Edit is way better at actually preserving character consistency. So for example, we can upload this background and this character and basically get her to sit on this chair, and here is what we get. Or we can upload this background and get her to sit in the cafe like this. Notice that all of the details of this cafe are preserved in the output photo, including all the items in the background. And same with this character. Notice that her face and dress looks exactly like the input photo. If you have a product line, you can easily generate photos of models wearing or using your products. For example, here's an LV bag and a Chinese actress, and you can get her to wear the handbag like this. Or you can get this woman to stand behind this car, and here is what you get. Here's the crazy thing. You can even upload these pose skeleton photos to control the pose of your output image. So this basically has ControlNet built in. For example, you can upload this image plus this pose, and it'll basically generate the character in that pose. Or here's the same image but in a different pose, and you can also specify a different background, and here is what you get. How insane is that? Here's another example. You can upload multiple characters and place them in a background like this and get them to drink and chat together. Notice that it preserves all the details of this background plus the details of the outfits of both characters. Here's another insane example. You can take this character plus this dress plus this pose and merge them all into one output photo. And like I showed you, this is insanely good for creating deepfakes of existing people. You basically can just upload a photo of anyone and get them to do anything. Like I showed you in my previous video about the first version of Qwen Image Edit, this is also insanely good at generating text, much like GPT-4o. So you can get this guy to write out all this text on a whiteboard, and notice that the text is completely accurate. Plus his reflection on this chalkboard is also pretty good. It's also insanely good at restoring and colorizing old photos like this. Now, because it's so good at preserving details and consistency, you can upload a logo like this and generate a ton of stuff with it. Or here's another example where you can upload this logo and add it to a bag or her shirt. Or you can take a product and easily generate ads or posters like this. You can also easily edit the colors of existing text in your image, or even change the font of the text. Or you can also micro-edit certain parts of the text in your image. Anyways, those are some of their demos, which might be cherry-picked, so let me also show you some of my personal demos and compare it with the two other leading image editors out there, Seedream 4.0 by ByteDance and Google's Nano-banana. So here's my first test. And by the way, note that both Seedream and Nano-banana are paid and closed source, whereas Alibaba's Qwen Image Edit is completely free and open source. So you can use this offline, you can fine tune it and do some really uncensored stuff with it. More on that in just a second. Anyways, here's my first test. I basically went to Google Maps, I turned on the satellite view and took a screenshot of a random place. And then I prompted each image editor to make an aerial view of this photo taken from a plane. And here is the generation from Qwen Image Edit. If you compare this with the original input photo, notice that all the details are there, but it's just that now you're viewing it at this slightly diagonal angle from above. This is extremely good. Now, if you compare this with Seedream, it kind of messes up the physics, plus it also keeps the text in the image, which is obviously not correct. This does not look like an image taken from a plane. For example, note that this building should be way taller, like this. And then here is Nano-banana's generation. It did even worse. So it only got rid of like some of the text in this image, but not others. So you can still see like 2025 Google down here. Again, this doesn't look like an aerial view taken from a plane like this. So in this example, I would have to give the point to Qwen Image Edit. Here's another really cool test. So I took this photo of a woman plus this pose skeleton photo, and I basically prompted it to put the woman in this pose. So here's what I got from Qwen Image Edit. If you compare this with this pose skeleton, her pose is completely aligned. Plus, the woman looks like the woman from the original photo, including her face and dress. Now, for both Seedream and Nano-banana, unfortunately, they were not able to completely match my input pose. So in this instance, again, the winner goes to Qwen Image Edit. If you really need to generate a very specific pose, you can use this method to give you absolute control over the pose of your character. Alright, here's another really tricky example. I took this image with a ton of geese and ducks, and for the prompt, I only wanted to remove all the white geese. And as you can see, Qwen Image Edit nailed it. It was able to remove all the white geese while keeping the rest of the ducks in the photo. And actually, Seedream also nailed this, so it also was able to remove all the geese. However, if you look at Nano-banana, it still had some white geese in the background, so it was not able to detect and completely remove all the white geese. Alright, here's another fun test. So I took this image of a man doing kung fu plus this anime character, and I wanted to swap the man's white outfit into the outfit of the anime character. And as you can see, Qwen Image Edit nailed this. It was able to swap the outfit, and this looks really good. And then for Seedream, it was not able to actually convert this into a realistic photo for some reason. And then for Nano-banana, it was also able to execute this prompt very well. However, here is where Qwen Image Edit did even better. So if you look closely at the input image, first of all, note that he has 3 buttons over here. Plus, he has a sword where the end of the sword is roughly below his pocket over here. And then this part is near his belt over here. Now, if you look at Qwen Image Edit, he indeed has 3 buttons, plus the sword is also retained in this photo. Whereas for Nano-banana, it actually added 4 buttons, plus the sword is completely missing. So at least in that regard, I would have to give the point to Qwen Image Edit. It's even better than Nano-banana in terms of preserving the details of a character. Here's another really cool feature which is built into Qwen Image Edit. Apparently, it's really good at estimating the depth of an image. So here's my input image, and I can get it to generate a depth map, and here is what we get. This depth map is actually very accurate, so objects that are closer to the viewer are brighter in color. It's also able to detect subtle details in the background like these lamps over here, which is really cool. Unfortunately for Seedream or Nano-banana, both of them were not able to create a depth map very accurately. So in this regard, again, the point goes to Qwen Image Edit. Alright, next I also wanted to see if it can understand and change the camera perspective of a photo. So I'm going to input this photo and then prompt it to make a fisheye overhead view of this scene. And here's what we got from Qwen Image Edit. It's actually able to create a fisheye overhead view. Very cool. And also note that it's able to preserve the details of everyone behind the character. So for example, this lady with a gray backpack, as you can see, is over here. Plus this man with a black backpack is over here. Here we have a pink backpack and another man in a white shirt and black backpack, and those two are over here. Plus this woman is over here. How cool is that? Whereas if you look at Seedream, even though it's able to create a fisheye overhead view, a lot of the people in this background are actually missing. So for example, we don't actually see this woman with the pink backpack, nor this man with a white shirt and a black backpack. They're supposed to be somewhere over here. And then for Nano-banana, I would argue that this isn't even a fisheye image because the edges of a fisheye lens should have some distortion, but we don't see any distortion over here. So I think in this case, the winner goes to Qwen Image Edit. It's incredibly good. Here's a really cool use case for all three image editors. You can just plug in a photo of a product and prompt it to generate an ad for you. So here my prompt is make an epic ad for this drink. Notice I didn't even specify, the details or what exactly I want in the ad. I just told it to make it epic. And then the slogan should be supercharge your day with the subheading all natural ingredients caffeine free. Here's what I got from Qwen Image Edit. It was able to very accurately clone this energy drink and then add some really cool lightning bolts, plus the text is also correct. Now here's what I got from Seedream. It also got the text correct. However, this is quite a simple ad. I don't think it's really epic. Here's what I got from Nano-banana, and it kind of did the complete opposite. So it kind of went too overboard in terms of epicness. We have like lightning in the background, plus some electric currents, plus even a freaking volcano erupting in the background with blue lava. So this is really, really epic. And then the text is also correct. Now, honestly, all three of these ads are not bad. They all preserved the details of the energy drink correctly, plus the text is also correct. So let me know in the comments which one you prefer. Here's another tricky test where I uploaded this image and I got it to remove all the raindrops. Now, Qwen Image Edit nailed this. So it was able to remove all the raindrops while preserving the rest of the details of the image. And actually, Seedream was able to do this as well. However, if you look at Nano-banana, it somehow decided to also remove the three humans in the foreground over here. So Nano-banana isn't actually that good at preserving details compared to Qwen Image Edit. Here's another example. I'm going to upload this photo and there are so many annoying tourists in the background. Let's remove them all. And here's what I got from Qwen Image Edit. It executed this beautifully while preserving the details of the woman plus the buildings in the background. And Seedream 4 was also able to do this very well. However, if you look at Nano-banana, it somehow was not able to remove all the humans from the scene. So again, in this instance, if we just compare Qwen with Nano-banana, Qwen is again the winner. That it's pretty insane that in just less than a month since Nano-banana was released, we already have an open source alternative that's better in some cases. Now, of course, we also got to test out how good it is at actually cloning a face and creating deepfakes. So, of course, we are going to use Will Smith as our reference character, and let's get him to stand in front of a chalkboard with the following text. And of course, since we have Will Smith, let's also get him to hold a plate of spaghetti. So here's what we got from Qwen Image Edit. Notice that this looks exactly like Will Smith. In fact, his face is pretty much the same as our input photo, plus he's holding spaghetti, plus the text in the background is correct. And here's what we got from Seedream. It's actually quite similar to our generation from Qwen. However, note that there are a few misspellings for the text. And then here's Nano-banana. Somehow it decided to generate Will Smith in a completely different pose from our reference image. However, this still looks like Will Smith. And the text here doesn't really look handwritten, so that's another minor flaw with this generation. So at least for me, I would prefer the generation from Qwen. Did you know you can easily deploy AI agents using ChatGPT? Check out this free guide called 22 ChatGPT Marketing Agents You Can Launch in 5 Minutes by HubSpot Media. This is your ultimate guide for streamlining your marketing efforts, saving time and driving results. This guide contains 22 plug-and-play templates which you can just paste into ChatGPT to create the agents. For example, you can create a competitive intelligence agent to research competitors and create detailed comparison reports. Or here's an ICP reverse engineer agent to create ideal customer profiles by analyzing real customer data. This helps build precise customer personas to target campaigns effectively. They also have this content calendar creator agent, which helps generate monthly content calendars across multiple platforms. This is perfect for planning content for social media, blogs, and more. Here's a really useful one, the conversion rate optimization agent, which helps analyze and improve website conversion rates. It provides A/B testing, recommendations, and UX improvements. Plus, there are a ton more like this market trend analysis agent, or influencer research agent, or this competitive pricing research agent. The prompts for each one are already optimized, so you can just paste this into ChatGPT. You can access this resource completely for free using the link in the description below. This resource was made by HubSpot Media, the sponsor of this video. Next, let's also see how good it is at restoring and colorizing old photos. So here is a pretty old and damaged black and white photo, and let's get it to restore and colorize it. And here's what we got from Qwen Image Edit. As you can see, it's able to preserve the details of everyone in the image. Their faces all look the same. Plus, it's also able to remove the fade along the edges of the photo, and of course the folds and damages. Seedream was also able to do this very well, but I would say the colors are just kind of different from Qwen Image Edit. And then for Nano-banana, it was able to add some color, but it's kind of desaturated, plus it was not able to remove the fade along the edges of this photo. So I don't know, I would say this is like a tie between Seedream and Qwen Image Edit. Now here's something which I know Nano-banana sucks at, which is converting a scene into anime style. So if I upload this image and turn it into anime style, note that Nano-banana was just not able to handle this, whereas both Seedream and Qwen Image Edit were able to do this very well. And honestly, both generations look very good. So I don't know, I would say it's a tie between Seedream and Qwen Image Edit. Here's another really tricky test. I wanted to basically translate all this text into Chinese. And here's what we got from Qwen Image Edit. It was able to translate the larger text, but not the smaller text as you can see here. Some of it is still English and some of it is just gibberish. And then for Seedream, it did pretty well, so it was able to convert all the text except for this geographic into Chinese. And you know, the Chinese of the smaller text is actually accurate. For Nano-banana, it failed to convert most of the text, so this is like the worst out of the 3 image editors. So I don't know, there are errors with all 3 generations, none of them are perfect. I would say it's a tie between Qwen and Seedream. Here's my final test. So I've uploaded this really complex Destiny Gundam, and I basically got it to make a model sheet of this character with a front, back, and side view. And here's the generation from Qwen Image. It kind of turned this into 2D instead of 3D, which is strange, but most of the details are correct. And then for your reference, here is Seedream and Nano-banana. In this instance, I would have to say Qwen Image Edit is slightly worse than Seedream or Nano-banana, but it's pretty close. Anyways, that sums up all of my personal tests using this latest version of Qwen Image Edit and comparing it with the leading closed and paid image editors out there. As you can see, for most cases, Qwen Image Edit is better or just as good. I can't believe they actually open source this for us to use for free. So next I'm going to show you where and how to use it. If you don't have a good enough GPU, or if you don't need to generate uncensored stuff, then you can just use it online using Qwen's native chat interface. This is basically like ChatGPT, where you can ask a chatbot questions, plus you can upload documents for it to analyze, plus you can even search the web for it to fetch the latest information. Here is where you can select from all of Alibaba's Qwen models, including the latest Qwen 3 Max, which I've gone over in a previous video. But to use the latest image editor, you can just click on Image Edit and then drag and drop some reference images onto here, and then here's where you would enter your prompt to describe how you want to edit the image. It's as simple as that, and you get around a dozen free generations every day. Now, in addition to this native chat interface, there's also a free Hugging Face space where you can use the latest version of Qwen Image Edit. This is using Hugging Face, which gives you free compute credits which refresh every day. Now, with this interface, you can also generate a few images every day for free. I'll link to this Hugging Face space in the description below as well. Now, of course, the best method is to download this so you can run it for free and unlimited times, plus you can customize it by adding loras and do potentially uncensored stuff as well. So next I'm going to show you how you can download and use this locally on your computer. Now there are various ways you can use Qwen Image Edit offline, but the easiest and most customizable way is using Comfy UI. This is basically the platform for running open source image, video, and audio generators offline. If you haven't heard of Comfy UI, definitely definitely see this video first to get started. But anyways, back to this video, I'm gonna assume you already have Comfy UI installed. Now, the first thing you might be wondering is how much VRAM do you need to run this? So if you look in the official Qwen Image Edit repo by Comfy UI, notice that they've already released the Qwen Image Edit 2509 models. And they released two different versions. There is the original model, which is 40 gigabytes in size, so you'll need over 40 gigabytes of VRAM to run this. However, they've also released a more compressed FP8 version, which is around 20 gigabytes. So you're probably going to need like 24 gigabytes of VRAM to run this. Now, if you don't have 24 gigabytes of VRAM, fortunately, there are even more compressed versions for you. So I'll link to this page in the description below as well, where this kind person has already created some even more compressed GGUFs for the latest version of Qwen Image Edit. So you can see the smallest model is only 7 gigabytes in size, which should be able to fit within a GPU with 8 gigabytes of VRAM. And in this video, don't worry, I'm going to go over how you can use both the official models as well as these more compressed GGUF versions. Alright, so the next step is to actually set up Qwen Image Edit on Comfy UI. Now, actually, I already did a full installation tutorial on how to set this up for the first version of Qwen Image Edit, which is basically the same thing. So see this video to first get started. After watching this video, you should have this workflow in your Comfy UI. Now, the only thing we need to change is this load diffusion model up here. We just need to change it from the initial version to this latest 2509 version. So going back into this Hugging Face repo, you can choose to download one of these models. Now for me, because I don't have over 40 gigabytes of VRAM, I'm going to select this FP8 version, which is only 20 gigabytes. So let's click download over here. And this goes in Comfy UI, and then in models, and then in diffusion models. Notice that I already have this over here. And then afterwards, back in our Comfy UI workflow, first we need to press R to refresh the model list. And then afterwards, in this diffusion model dropdown, simply select the 2509 model, which we just downloaded. And then for the rest of these models, it's the same as before. So for load clip, we are going to select this one. And then for load VAE, we are going to select this one. And then like before, here is where you would upload the image which you want to edit. So let's try this image. And then for the prompt, I'm gonna type something like, she is wearing a cowboy hat and a red dress. The awesome thing is this latest 2509 version also works with Qwen Image Lightning. So we can also turn on this node to make our generation way faster. Notice that if we turn this on from the node down here, we can set the step count to 4 instead of 20, which is gonna speed it up by like 5 times. And then we also need to set the CFG to 1. And that's pretty much it. Now, if you have no idea what all these settings mean, again, see my previous tutorial where I go over everything. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Let's click run. And here is what we get. Again, note that the background and the person looks exactly the same as the input photo. It's really good at micro editing. Alright, so that sums up how to use the official version of Qwen Image Edit. Now, if you don't have like over 20 gigabytes of VRAM, fortunately there are GGUFs which you can use as well. So if I click on model card, over here is basically the estimated hardware requirements for this. So for example, if you have 16 gigabytes of VRAM, you should be able to run any of these models. If you have 12 gigabytes, then you should be able to run these. And if you have 8 gigabytes, then you should be able to run the first one, which is only 7 gigabytes in size. So for me, I'm just going to download the smallest and fastest one, this Q2 one, and this goes in Comfy UI, in models, and then in unit. Right now, afterwards, all we need to do to load up this GGUF is double click anywhere in your interface and then type in unet loader and then select this one. By the way, if you don't see this option in your dropdown, then what you need to do first is click on Manager and then click on Custom Nodes Manager. And then at the top here, search for GGUF. And what you need to do is download this one, Comfy UI GGUF by City96. And by the way, if you already have this, it doesn't hurt to update this first as well. Alright, afterwards, all we need to do is, in this model dropdown, select our latest Qwen Image Edit model. Now, as you can see, I don't have this here because I've just finished downloading the model, so let's press R again to refresh the model list. And now I should see this new model. So let's select it, and then let's drag the connector from this node to here, which would also automatically disconnect the diffusion model loader. And that's pretty much it. Let's click run. And as you can see, here is the result from the Q2 GGUF model. The quality is noticeably worse than the full model, but I mean, this is expected because we basically reduced a 40 gigabyte model down into a 7 gigabyte model. So this is highly compressed, but this is the sacrifice that you need to make if you have low VRAM and you can't run the full model. Now, one more thing I want to mention is because Qwen Image Edit is open source, that means the open source community can play around with this and create fine tunes of it for more specialized purposes. These are basically called loras. For example, there are already a ton of loras for Qwen Image Edit, which you can use to supplement your generation. And yes, there are plenty of uncensored stuff as well. So let's quickly also go over how you can add a lora into your workflow. It's very easy to do so. All you need to do is add another LoRa loader over here. So let's double click on this interface and then search for LoRa loader. And we are going to go with this one, LoRa loader model only. And then afterwards, we basically connect your GGUF or the diffusion model to here. And then we connect that LoRa to over here. You can also continue adding another LoRa, and you just basically need to string it together like this. Now, it's important not to overdo it, so if you load too many LoRas, then it does tend to degrade the quality and add a lot of noise to your generation. So it's best to keep it at like 2 to 3 LoRas. But anyways, that is how you can load additional LoRas into your workflow and potentially generate some uncensored stuff. And in a nutshell, that sums up my review and installation tutorial of the latest Qwen Image Edit. You know, I can't believe in less than a month since Nano-banana was released, we already have a free and open source competitor, which is even better in most cases. Plus, this can actually run on most consumer grade GPUs. God bless the Alibaba team for making this open weights. Anyways, let me know in the comments what you think of this, and if you run into any errors during the installation, welcome to copy and paste your error message in the comments below, and I'll try to help you troubleshoot as much as possible. As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.